Welcome to our second episode of 13 a.m. And today I'm joined by Charlie, say hi,
Hi.
and our special guest, Kevin Tan.
Hello. Yeah.
So, um, first, how was you guys' weeks? Charlie, you want to go first?
My week was terrible. I was not productive. I did absolutely nothing, and that's it.
Great. What about you, Kevin?
My week's been amazing. My courses right now are pretty chill. It's just marketing and art, but then I never anticipated there to be so much work. So during the last week, I'm just trying to like cram everything in before the end of the semester. So I hopefully don't fail the course, but that's what I've been up to. Thank you for asking.
No problem. Well, that's great. My week has been going pretty good, and our new quarter is starting up in a couple days, so we're just getting prepared for that stuff. All right. So, moving on in our agenda, today we're joined by Kevin, who is currently one of the heads of his business school at Stephen London Secondary and has participated in multiple case competitions and is all around just a great guy who is very accomplished in many things. So, Kevin, um, you are interested in business and you did apply to business school. So, why did you choose to, pursue this field particularly?
All right. So first of all, thank you so much for hyping me up. I really appreciate your words, even though most of them are untrue. But anyway, why I started getting into business was when in grade 9, I was actually forced into this like business program by my mom during summer. She actually wanted me to like do something productive because I wasn't taking summer school. So that's where like I really started to develop my passion for business. Like um in that program, I didn't really like get much experience interacting with people, but then I did get some experience, um, working around with business models, business plans, just presenting, and I realized that I was like the public speaking aspect of business was actually like pretty fun. It's like both scary but fun at the same time. But then I guess like it's like the fear of it that like kind of like drove me forward, and that's like what got me like really into it. But then nowadays, if you're asking why I'm interested in business now, as I developed throughout high school, I kind of realized that business is really important in our world because it's all around us. It's how we interact with people. So like I really believe that being good at business will help me succeed in the future, and I want to be successful. So I guess that's my
Oh,
response to that question.
yeah, for sure, definitely. And like after grade 9, what
Mhm.
kind of other things do you do to prepare you to, go into business?
Right. So after my first program, I realized that there's actually a lot more things that I didn't know about business, right? So I just found opportunities out in the community to both immerse myself in this field and as well as some like volunteering work to do on the side as well. But yeah, I just like immerse myself in a lot of stuff.
So, like, things I've heard you've been part of, like Beta U and a bunch of other programs. Do you want to tell me a little bit about those?
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna speak about Beta U. So Beta U is this business orientated leadership committee in city center, and basically what we do is we bring events to the community, but then everyone in the group really has like a business mindset. So we tackle those problems and we plan these events um, with that mindset in the back of our mind. So some events that we planned out were like, for example, like a skating event last year. So even though like that may not really seem like a business event on the outside, it's not like a typical case competition or like some like really business related stuff. There was like a lot to learn for like someone who's interested in business, like coordinating the logistics and finance work behind it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like you did a lot with business in high school, but like for me, as someone who was interested in business in high school, I had a lot of trouble like finding opportunities as someone in like grade 11 or grade 12 to get involved in like the field. So can you tell me like what are some ways like you found these opportunities?
Right. So actually finding case competitions, I originally had some difficulties with it. I believe that the first time I was really exposed to case comps was from my friend. They were just like, "Oh, Kevin, there's this like case comp here. You should like totally join us." And that's how I really got started. And after that, I remember looking for more case comp opportunities, but then I couldn't find that many, right? So like I guess like you really have to like network and actually like talk to people who are like involved in the field, and that's how you find more opportunities that way. But then in grade 12, I actually realized there weren't that many opportunities in Richmond. So what I kind of did was, just creating these opportunities that your community lacks.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Just like creating more opportunities for students to discover business because it's not a very like specific field that you can go into and learn about like chemistry or physics, but it's something that's a very broad term. Um, and so you did apply to business schools. How was that experience for you personally?
Right. Overall experience was it wasn't really unexpected because I've actually been talking to some students who have applied to business school last year, so I kind of know what to expect. But then even going into it, there were some like online interview portions that I stressed out a lot about. Um,
Mhm.
but aside from that, it went pretty well because I actually started my applications pretty early, which I am pretty happy for that and pretty grateful. So yeah, it was overall like a pretty fun experience.
So, for any future students that do want to go into business or are looking to apply to business schools, do you have any advice for them?
Applying to business. I guess one thing that I really wish I did more of during high school is definitely network. Especially this year because of the pandemic, we aren't really allowed to go to any real in-person case competitions, and I feel like this year I kind of lacked that. So I would strongly encourage all of you to like start early and take the opportunity to reach out to people to build your own connections because connections is really what makes you succeed or not succeed in the future. So um, I strongly encourage all of you to make as many connections as you can.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the biggest problem I'm having right now in like an online university format is like making those connections with other people and in my program and with other students. But I guess going back to something you talked about a little bit earlier,
Right.
you said in grade 12 you started making opportunities when there weren't any in terms of like school clubs or maybe even your own kind of side thing
Yeah.
in terms of consulting. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what you did there?
Right. So I guess I'll talk about like consulting first. So I remember I was just like sitting around at home in like March during the pandemic, and I just like thought to myself, what am I doing with life? Like I see all my friends like trying to like start businesses during the pandemic, like all these like nonprofit organizations. So I'm like, oh, might as well like use all the experiences that I've accumulated over the past few years and just start something of my own, right? So I got my friend Steven, he's also from my school, and we decided to actually start our own consulting business. And yeah, so overall, it was pretty similar to my high school incentive program, the NX project, where we had to like reach out to someone who we didn't know and really to like network and build a connection with them. So what happened there is we somehow stumbled onto this dog training service, and we reached out to them. They actually needed help with the website, so that was perfect over there. And while working with her, we actually ran into a few difficulties because, first of all, our clients they weren't that tech savvy in the sense that they're basically a boomer, but um, so we basically had to like teach them how to like use Zoom and like a lot of like advanced technologies. Um, so it was like a bit there was a lot of work involved, but overall it's like a really great experience just communicating with a client and just developing that connection and just figuring out what someone else needs, especially in times of like crisis. Uh, so yeah, it was overall like a really fun um, experience.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. so I guess currently I'm also doing a little bit of consulting at my school. We have a consulting club, so I'm doing that. And I agree, it's a really fun experience
Mm.
working with clients and helping them. But I just have a question for you. What kind of consulting do you do? Do you do like management consulting or something else?
Yeah, for ours, it was actually kind of sketchy. It's not like we don't really have like one set thing that we do. We kind of just like our main goal, our main objective was to like help her profit the most, right? So like we tried to like help ways to help her with like, marketing, to help her with like management, just give her like advices here and there. But I wouldn't say like we're really like specified, and we didn't only target one specific thing.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail about some of the projects you've done for your clients in the past?
Right, for sure. So the first thing that we did for her was, I guess I'll just start with some problems that we saw or we identified in the beginning, because I believe that's like the main way to approach a problem and actually to help your client grow. So in the beginning, we took a look at her website, and her main problem there was she was essentially a really great dog trainer. She had a lot of great reviews and a lot of great resources, but her website was outdated essentially. So over there, we just helped her one rebrand her logo. We designed a new logo for her. We helped move her website into a more friendly user interface one. And as well, another problem that we identified in the beginning was that her social media was lacking presence because she was only using Facebook. So over there, we helped her build a following over Instagram as well. So I would say those two are uh, the two things that uh, we focused on.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. And I would love to get to know more about your consulting business since it's also an area I'm really interested in right now. But I think we have to move on.
Yep.
All right. So, as we all know, me and Kevin are both part of student council, and we just want to have a quick discussion on the importance of student council since Charlie is also, vice president of his association at his school.
Right.
So I just want to get your guys' opinions on whether student council is a very essential part of, student culture or whether it's just a sort of popularity contest that just is something you put on your resume. Kevin, why don't we start with you? What do you think?
Me? Me, right? Okay.
No, no, the other Kevin.
My bad. Yeah, I think that student council, especially for like president positions, anything that has like a vote involved that's not only from the executives is essentially a popularity contest. But with that being said, I'm kind of contradicting myself here. It is still an essential part of high school, because a lot of the experiences and values that I developed throughout high school were actually from student council, just working in that setting. But that's basically my thought on it.
So like, there's like people that like don't get the positions they
Yeah.
want, and so they just like leave student council and they never do anything for it again.
Uh,
Do you think that's like
yeah.
a part of the club that can be changed for the better so people aren't like left out because they don't have a leadership position, or is that just essential part of the club's culture, just how it works?
Right. Honestly, I think that no diss, but I think that people who leave student council after not getting their position are people who are essentially doing it for the resume. If they are truly committed toward making the best environment for the students, they would always find different like other opportunities in student council or maybe in other clubs to like, you know, continue what they're passionate about. So I
Yeah,
don't think that this is something that could be changed. This is more about um, changing the perspective of like the public, right? Because there's always this like stigma in the public, especially right now, how everything's so competitive. Everyone's like basically doing all their extracurriculars for resume patching. So I think that it's a really difficult thing that for us to solve if we wanted to just like solve it in one go.
for sure, for sure. I definitely agree with that sentiment. Charlie, do you have anything to say about that, knowing that you are an integral part of your school's community in terms of leadership?
In terms of how I received my position, I actually wasn't elected. and I was instead like chosen by the previous executives and not through a popularity or voting contest. So I was just kind of wanting to get your opinion about like which method of, I guess, electing or choosing executives in student council or in any student association is like the best way or like a better way.
Right. So I really don't believe that there's any best way. I think that some positions need one certain type of voting as compared to the other. Like for example, if you're electing the student council president, I think that that should be elected because we need to hear the public's opinion in that matter, right? I think that the public should have the power to choose who they want to lead the school, who want to like represent them, and to come up with activities that they're actually interested about. But at the same time, other positions such as vice president, who may be working more behind the scenes, could be more exec chosen because those are people who need to work hard behind the scenes and they don't appear as much as the student council president.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, for positions that are not chosen by the public or by like a general population,
Mhm.
how much does nepotism or like knowing the people in charge play a factor in getting that position? And is that like actually a problem in high school?
I guess right now, even running the group rep program, having people come in to do the interview and actually knowing some of them is really difficult. Telling them no, like they don't deserve the position, right? I think that it's definitely a problem. It really depends on who the execs are and what their morals are and how they choose to approach situations. But I can see how this is a problem that may arise.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I just finished hiring the rest of my executives,
Yeah.
and when I was interviewing them, right, some of them were people I already knew and were people I was relatively good friends with, and some of the people were like people I didn't know whatsoever. And I
Mm.
definitely had a lot harder time talking negatively
Yeah.
about the people I already knew.
Yeah.
And I think in part because I already know how they work and I can see them being a good fit on the team, but also in part because right, I don't want to like leave someone I know like off
Yeah.
of the student council team. So I definitely agree it can be a problem at times.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think I can add on to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that I totally agree with you. Like, if you know the person personally, you'll know their work habits, but then how they're judged by the other executives and how other people see them are mainly from their written application and their interview
Mhm.
process. So even if you personally know that they are a really good applicant, there may be some other people who only see this other side of them, right? Which may
Mhm.
be more negative. Um, but yeah, I totally agree with you. Um, yeah, so I think that in some sense, nepotism could be beneficial in the sense that if you know the person well and maybe they underperformed during the interview. But um, yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really good point, and do believe I do believe that to some extent. So
So, moving on to sort of um, a last question about business in high school. Um, do you think, like personally, as a student going into business, that taking courses in the sciences is more or less helpful than taking courses in the arts, or is there even a difference?
Right. I think that both are actually really, really important. In terms of science, even though you may think that it's completely unrelated to business, but science courses teach you some sense of logical thinking, which I think would be beneficial because to succeed in business, once again, you need to kind of understand the different like thought processes, right? Like when you work with different people, you kind of have to adjust your working style to them, and especially when you're working with like higher ups and like you want to get things passed, you have to learn how to essentially suck up to them, kind of be like them, and develop like a similar thought process. stylism, because that's how you really get your ideas across. But then in terms of art, I wouldn't like undermine that as well, because art is like more of a creative side, which I think is still necessary in business as well. So I think that they should be weighted equally, and there really isn't one that's more important than the other.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's very important to have a balanced course load.
For sure.
So, we're gonna move on and pull the focus to Charlie because,
Oh.
Kevin is interested in consulting and so are you. So we're gonna talk about that today. Um, Charles, specifically, why did you choose to look into consulting?
The reason I got into consulting is not because like it was like a childhood passion from when I was 10 and I really wanted to work at Deloitte and whatever. But in my first year at university, I was just looking at opportunities I can get involved, and I saw that my program had like a consulting club run by students, designed specifically for students in my program. So, I gave it a shot in my first year, and I applied, and I got in, surprisingly. But after I got in, it was like a really good experience for me, and I learned a lot from that experience, arguably more than I learned in all of my classes combined in my first term. So yeah, I really enjoyed that experience, and I kept on doing it this term as well.
So, looking at consulting specifically, how do you keep up to date with, the trends in business and, business news?
In terms of like some of the work I've done for clients, I've been doing a lot of market research. So what that required me to do was like look at how the market or the industry our client is working in is currently doing. If we're expecting industry growth, if we're expecting the industry to decline, how many competitors our clients have in that industry, and if it is a good time for them to go to market right now, or if they do go to market right now, how what do they need to consider at that time. So we've definitely done a lot of work that needs us to keep updated with what's currently happening in the market, and we do a lot of research in that area so we can provide our clients with the best work that we do.
Wow, that's a lot of thought put into consulting. So that's a great transition to our next topic, which is also has to do with current events and business, and that is we're gonna talk about the short squeeze with GameStop and hedge funds and Reddit.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure Kevin doesn't really know anything, so we can take this opportunity to tell him about the recent developments in terms of the stock market and Wall Street versus Main Street transfer of money. So, Charlie, you want to give us a quick 60-second rundown on what's happening?
Yeah, so basically what I understand to have happened is a bunch of people on the Reddit group known as r/Wall Street Bets decided that they should manipulate the market in a way, in an unnatural way, so that hedge funds or investment funds with a lot of money invested in certain companies through short selling um, lose money because what short sellers do is they rely on the price of a certain company's stock to decrease. So um, they greatly boosted GameStop stock, where their stock increased by up to 600, not 600%, 500% within the past week.
Yeah, so can you tell us about like the implications this has on Wall Street and the stock market in general, as well as GameStop?
Do you guys know what short selling is?
Does Kevin know what short selling is?
Kevin, do you know what short selling is?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, I came up with a great analogy for it, and it's
Oh,
really
I came up
funny.
with an analogy too.
Oh my god, okay, it's like I borrowed a PS5 from Allison, and I told her I'd give it back to her in like 2 weeks, and that I sold it at the current market price. And I hope that in 2 weeks, the price of that PS5 goes down, so I can buy that PS5 back and then give it back to Allison. And I make the profit from what I originally sold it for minus what I had to pay to buy it back.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I had the same analogy with burritos, so I mean that's fine. Anyway,
Okay.
fire.
Kevin, do you understand?
Yeah, Charlie's analogy is just amazing. I'm blown off my feet.
Okay.
Our producer has a question. What does the PS5 or burrito represent? So the PS5, or the burrito in our case, represents the stock of a certain company. So in the current real world scenario, it's GameStop stock, where hedge funds had invested a lot of money in borrowing stock, specifically from GameStop, and relied on the value of that stock to decrease.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things about this whole, affair is the fact that these hedge funds actually borrowed more stock than stock existed. So they borrowed up to like at one point 140% of GameStop's actual stock. So that's a big no-no because you can't just borrow stocks that just don't exist.
From what I understand, the people on Reddit are kind of going homemade DIY vigilante on Wall Street right now, and are hoping to decrease the amount of power that these massive hedge funds and corporations and people with billions of dollars have by just greatly boosting the stock of a certain company. And in terms of like their success, they've been doing a pretty good job. One of the hedge funds that's been most affected, Melvin Capital, has lost more than $4 billion in their total amount of funding. And in terms of the impact it has on society, I'm not really sure, but a lot of what we're seeing now on social media are people trying to be homemade or DIY FBI vigilantes trying to bring change to the world through their own means on social media. And I feel like that's both a positive and a negative thing.
Okay, so I'm just gonna briefly talk about Robinhood. So essentially, what Robinhood is, it's a stock trading app, and it allows you to trade very small shares of
Oh,
stocks, right? Stupid.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So
So,
okay, so you get to pay like a little bit of money, like a couple dollars for like 0.01% of like Apple, or 0.01% of like an Apple share. And then you can, so it doesn't take any money for any transactions, and it just takes a little cut from your profits if you do make money on the stock market. So it's very accessible, very like, it's for the people below. It's not for people who are trading on Wall Street. It's just for the regular people. And Robinhood has always had this sort of business model that they're for the people. And when sort of GameStop and AMC and all these other stocks began rising because, the Reddit people wanted to uh, screw these hedge funds over, what happened was Robinhood took the side of these hedge funds. And they're taking the side of, rich people, what other people look at as like conglomerates and the owners of these massive executive sort of companies. And they're now not very happy because Robinhood has stopped anyone from selling or buying GameStop or AMC. And like that's like not good because that's going directly against their for the people kind of mentality they had before. And what's going on is right now is they're trying to sue Robinhood with a class action lawsuit for preventing these consumers from accessing these stocks. So yeah, that's what's going on with that.
well, okay, I have a question for you, Allison. Um, Not about the whole class action lawsuit, but since clearly I was uninformed about these stock trading apps, And I have been getting a surprising amount of Wealthsimple advertisements whenever I watch YouTube. What's like kind of the difference between like these trading apps designed for like the everyday person versus like what we think of investing as like trading on Wall Street?
For sure. So there are a lot of platforms that you can use to trade stocks. Most commonly you can think of TD Ameritrade. Robinhood is also a big one. Well, simple, and these stockbrokers essentially will take your stock and then like you can sell it at a certain price and you can buy them, and usually companies like TD Ameritrade will charge you a certain cost, $10 for trading a stock, and they don't care whether you win or lose money. It just depends on how many trades you make. Apps like Robinhood are definitely more accessible because they're free. You don't have to pay money, even if you like lose money. Well, you do have to pay money when you lose money, but you don't have to pay money if you win money. They just take a little portion of your earnings. I think Robinhood is probably for very young investors, probably people who aren't really familiar with the stock market just yet and aren't willing to put in a lot of money, people with very little capital to invest. Whereas stuff like TD Ameritrade is like what my mom would use, and then there's like the big Wall Street stuff, which is for the rich people on Wall Street. So yeah, those are the differences.
I see. Thank you for teaching me more. I'm
No
definitely
problem.
more informed about stocks than I was like 2 days ago.
So yeah, I was very invested in stocks for a while, and then I stopped because it got too confusing.
Haha, that's a nice pun.
What do
Haha,
you mean?
nice
What's that
pun.
even funny? That's not a pun.
Good pun.
That's not a pun. Did Mark say anything?
Kevin, do you have anything to say on this topic?
No, I'm just getting educated about Allison. I'm just trying to let all of this marinate. But once again, just to echo what Charlie said, I really appreciate the fun. It's quite hilarious.
Okay. So, now that everyone's like on the same page about what's going on, let's discuss. What do you guys think will happen? Starting with you, Charlie.
Uh, well, I I'm not a legal expert, but I
Me
did
neither.
spend a decent amount of time paying attention in Law 12 class, and I honestly have no idea what will happen. Um, I'm going to assume the larger corporations, um, such as Robinhood, have more money to spend on lawyers, uh, compared to people filing a class action lawsuit. I cannot say that word properly. Okay. Um, in terms of how that will impact the case, I have no clue. Because once again, I'm not a legal expert. Um,
Why?
in terms of anything else, I also don't know. Because I'm not a legal expert.
That was so useless. I'm cutting that out. Oh. Well, okay, it's not just like regular people that are asking for the class action lawsuit. Several, prominent politicians are also like speaking out against this. In particular, AOC. Um, they're all calling for this because I don't know. I feel like if you look on Reddit and you look on Wall Street Bets and there's updates and there's two different sides speaking. There's the people that work for the hedge funds, and there's people that are the people holding stocks like GME and AMC, and they have very different viewpoints. The people holding GME and AMC are like, yeah, we're going to totally destroy Wall Street. These people are losing so much money, and then people on Wall Street or on working for these hedge funds are like, oh yeah, this happens all the time. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we'll get over this. Like, this is just expected, and nothing will come out of it. So, what do you guys think? Do you think this is just like something that happens every day, or do you think this has broader implications for, the future of the economy and the stock market?
Well, in terms of a kind of pattern I've been seeing in the past few years, there's definitely been more and more memification of everyday life. Like, for example, people randomly investing in GameStop stock just for the fun of it. Or, for example, like the planned Area 51 raid, even though it didn't like fully happen, there's still been like people who showed up to it. But like, I'm sure people in like the 1900s did things just for the fun of it as well. But especially right now with how much access we have to social media and how much we're online, there's definitely been that factor that has been impacting like everyday events. I do have a question for you, Allison. What do you believe are the implications of this event and the greater class action lawsuit?
Well, I think we must think about the classic stock mentality is what comes up must come down. And I don't think GameStop and AMC is going to go to the moon, as the people on Reddit say. But I definitely don't think this is like something that should be just like a trivial event. Like this is a very big event. It's the biggest transfer of money from Wall Street to Main Street. Some people say, and it just implies like what's happening in the world right now because of our shrinking middle class, and billionaires are being made by the minute. Like a lot more people are richer than they're supposed to be, and a lot more people are poorer than they're supposed to be, and this is just like one of the events that is because of this. Because we always look at these like high ranking executives that have a lot of money, and the shrinking middle class is definitely affecting our political and socioeconomic sort of culture. I think we will definitely see more events like this to come.
We should invest in some Dogecoin.
Yeah, I agree. Dogecoin is going up.
They went up by 43% in the past day, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. We should all
Very
invest in some Dogecoin.
good.
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right. So does Charlie have any other questions before we wrap it up?
Kevin, if you want to ask Allison and I any questions you want to know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Charlie, I was just wondering like what you are currently majoring in at Waterloo. You're studying at Waterloo, right?
Yes, I am. So, I'm currently majoring in science and business. My program is called Science and Business. The course distribution I take is around 40% science courses, 40% business courses, and then 10% just like random math, comp sci, CS. Comp
Mm,
sci is CS.
right. Is
What's
this
the
like
other
Wait,
10%?
40 plus 40 plus 10 is 90. Oh no.
Not mathematics, apparently.
I've,
He's working on it.
oh god. I take a mixture of business and science courses because I think we mentioned a little bit about this previously, but studying science does like I feel like help a lot in developing like an analytical mindset that you definitely need when working in business. For
Mm,
example, like there's not that much difference between analyzing a graph for a certain financial pattern versus like analyzing the data from your chem lab. And that's a skill that's still relatively transferable. So I think my program has done a really good job of combining everything we need to know about science combined with business.
for sure. Are you for sure set in stone, to pursuing consulting in the future, or are you looking to change your career paths later on?
Yeah, so I'm definitely like looking at consulting as one of the career options,
Right.
but like this year I think I also like learned that business is like a really big field and there's not just like one set career path. There's like people who do risk analysis, there's people who do finance, there's all sorts of different things and I'm still exploring that right now.
Right. And why are you passionate about consulting? Are you in it for the money, or are you like do you what do you see in a future career paths? Like what makes you choose what you choose?
That's a really good question. So, I'm not going to lie, you make a lot of money doing consulting.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a lot more than you would get if you like majored in like biochemistry or something. So that's definitely one of the factors why I'm focusing on the business side of my degree more than the science side. But another one is like I just really enjoyed the experience I had working in the consulting group at my school. And it's an environment that I want to like explore further or learn about further, and it's an environment that I think that I would genuinely really enjoy working in.
Right, for sure. And also, like, I heard from like a lot of people who say that like the courses that you learn in university actually don't really transfer to real life experiences like outside, right? Like, how do you like how is the transition for you between your university courses to like your club? Do you find that there was
Yeah.
overlap in between like the material that you learn, or how's that?
So there's definitely like basic knowledge that you get from some of your courses that you learn, right? So if like you want to go into data analysis, right, you need to know about stats and you need to know about coding languages and statistics and some of the basic knowledge there. And for example, in consulting, like I learned some of the basic and analysis processes, such as doing like a SWOT analysis or a pest analysis in my classes, but I didn't get to practice those tools until I was working in the club. So there's definitely basic knowledge that you do receive from school, but a lot of the working experience and what you need to know or what you do when you're working in an industry is learned through actually working.
For sure. Also, I just have like one more question regarding what you're currently pursuing. Is there a reason why you chose to pursue science instead of like mathematics? Because I know that business and math are like is also like a pretty big field. Like a lot of people take that as well.
I didn't get in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for asking.
No,
And
no, no, that's okay. But that's I did. So here, I applied for engineering,
right.
but I didn't get into Waterloo engineering,
Uh-huh.
and I also didn't get into UBC engineering, and I didn't really want to do SFU engineering, so I was like, screw it, I might as well go to Waterloo.
Right, for sure. That's fun.
Can't put that into the podcast. Makes you sound
Oh,
bad.
really?
That's
No,
That's so
we
dumb.
can't.
God damn.
That's top tier comedy.
That ruins
You
your
have to.
ruins your credibility.
What do you? Okay, just because I didn't get into actually.
Wait, do you know anything about the computing and financial management program at Waterloo? Because that's something that I'm interested in pursuing. Do you have friends in that?
I do have some friends in the math faculty.
Right.
One of them is doing comp sci, and two of them are doing financial analysis and risk management.
Right.
So they're not in that exact program, but I can ask them.
Okay, for sure.
I know Waterloo also has a very good AFM program.
Mhm.
Don't be like scared off by that, even though like just because it's in the arts faculty, it's still like a really good program. But yeah, I'll definitely, if you want to know more about that program, I'll try and find some people in it and let you know about it.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be great. That's something that I'm interested in pursuing. So if you have any information on that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Do you have any more questions?
Actually, sorry, no, I was just joking. I don't have any more.
Okay, Charlie, you want to end us off then?
Okay, well, that wraps up our podcast this week. Thank you so much to Kevin for joining us as our special guest. And thank you so much to Veronica for producing our podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our third episode. Maybe we'll have another special guest. Who knows? But thank you so much, Kevin. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I really learned a lot about the stock market and everything. So thank you so much for that.
Great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.